Hey guys, welcome to the first video on the Money on My Mind YouTube channel. For those who don't know, I run a podcast called the Money on My Mind podcast that's weekly on Wednesdays on Apple Music, on Spotify. And I interview guests on the sphere, on the topic, on anything to do with money. If you're an ice cream truck seller, I'll probably interview you and I'll probably have an hour conversation with you on the topic of money. To make this project of mine go to the next level, I was thinking I want a video based podcast and I want to add clips that are very interesting and that are very short from my guests. For example, Chris Chapman was a guy I interviewed on episode 4 of the podcast, and this clip right here on the screen, which will come, is about his stock that he really thinks will go to the next level. It's called NIO. And small clips like these, I hope, will inspire you. They inspired me. I currently invest in NIO. And hopefully, this project becomes a bigger deal on YouTube. Thank you to everyone who listened to the podcast. I reached 100 downloads. And thank you to everyone who is watching this video. Please subscribe to the channel, click the like button, comment. Hopefully these videos inspire you and motivate you like they've motivated me, and I hope you have fun listening to this clip. Thank you.
So you're saying like your experiences kind of shaped you in this way, and moving on like a little bit, we'll come back to the Charlotte Investment Group, but mentioned in university you were part of like this investment team, and it's speaking of stocks, I'm pretty interested in stocks, and a lot of my listeners are. What would you say is like important to know about stocks? Like, let's start with that.
Yeah, I have a funny story with stocks though. I graduated high school in 2014, and my uncle, who is probably one of the only people in my family that's done something really well with his life. He retired at 50 because of investing properly. Um, anyway, he gave me a $500 check and said, "I'm only giving this to you if you go to the local stock branch with me and buy some stocks. And you're 18, so you can do this now." And I was like, "What the heck is a stocks?" Because I just didn't know at that time. So that was really fun just to like research. And I bought my first stock there. And just some advice wise with just money management in general is spend less than you make. Unfortunately, so many people at my age, right out of school, especially that move to a thriving city like this. I mean, 70% of the people that move here are between the age of 22 and 30. So obviously, a lot of those people like to go out, like to have fun, like to go to lunch, but don't be going out 3, 4 times a weekend if you're only making $40,000 a year, because at the end of the day, you're just going to be broke. So always spend less than you make. That's huge. Um, that's so huge. I can't harp on that more. And from the stock perspective, if you don't know anything about stocks, there's a thing called Google. I mean, start
Yeah.
researching and put your money in an index fund. But if you're more savvy with it, I'm just really big on the tech companies right now. I mean, they're growing like crazy. The electric vehicles, that's something that I've put money in. Of course, the Microsofts, the Apples of the world. Um, and yeah, I think it's the earlier you can get started in investing, the better off you'll be. I remember I took a finance class in college, and the professor was like, here's a graph if you start investing at 30. And he's like, here's a graph if you start investing at 21 right after you graduate. And it was literally like a $1.1 million difference because of the compound interest that you get from
Yeah.
starting those 9 years earlier.
So that story about your uncle was very interesting because now it's very easy for even like a person my age to start stocks, because you can start like a custodian account where like your parents put some money inside your account, and you can trade legally
Mm.
at age like underage. So now like stocks become like a major thing, and I'm very happy you mentioned technology stocks, because that's like all the rave right now. Do you have any stocks you wanna like you've invested in that you can tell us about?
Yeah, it's the stock symbol NIO. It's essentially the Chinese version of Tesla, but they just put out a bunch of analyst reports that said they're projected to get to $40 by the end of the year, and 6 months ago they were $6. So they don't have a dividend or anything like that because they're a smaller shop. But I mean, the growth on that, if you guys want to look up the charts, I mean, it's straight up. It's been amazing. So that's something that I've been kind of putting my money in. My I think with every investment, by the way, you should have like an end goal in mind. So for NIO, my goal is to just keep putting money in and then sell off once I get just to a few thousand, and just obviously use that either to put a down payment on a house or use that to put back into the market. That's really up to you to decide. But then with an investment, with an investment like Bank of America, for example, which I'm in, obviously that stock's not going to just skyrocket like,
Exactly.
this electric vehicle company. But my goal with that is to collect a lot of shares, accumulate some dividends, because their dividends not too bad for a bank. So I think with your stocks, like each one, you should have individual goals in mind of what you want to do with it.
So are you like looking to like day trade, or are you looking to go long term, like till you're 50 for like some stocks? Like, because I know NIO, you're probably thinking end of this year, you're probably going to sell off.
Yeah, and I'd say that stock and actually Target is probably the only two that's kind of my short term, just 2020 move, because Target's probably going to skyrocket once holiday shopping gets here, because you're not going to be able to go, Black Friday shopping or go to the stores as much. So the e-commerce side of Target's going to rise. I know it's already like 160 a share. I think I got in at 105. So Target and then NIO are some short term moves. But longer term moves, Pfizer, Excel Energy. Um, let's see here. Apple is kind of a long term move too, just because they're a tech company, but it's like they just can't lose.
Yeah,
Knock
they're
on
not.
wood.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, to answer your question, I'd say 80% of my portfolio is more long term. What I usually do, and I actually got this advice from my uncle, is I'll save up for 3 months, where I'll put half of my savings each month. I'll put half into a high yield savings account just to save up for a down payment on a house, and I'll put the other half in my stock brokerage account and my cash balance. And at the end of that 3 months, I'll have a lot of buying power. So then I'll
Yeah.
go all in, maybe on two companies.
So when you're saying all in, you're talking like 5-6 figures.
No,
Or,
no, no, no.
okay, okay.
Yeah, well, if you're saving like, 2 to 3 grand a month, and fast forward down the line, in 3 months you have 3 or 4 grand in your brokerage account from a cash perspective, then I'd probably just split that by two and buy, X amount of shares of Microsoft or X amount of shares of Apple. Um, but yeah, the day trading, I just like I have so much going on, as you mentioned at the
Yeah.
start, of a job, a podcast, an app, a nonprofit. It's like from the bandwidth perspective, I just feel like I would put too much on my plate, and really it would just crash and burn because I'm not putting the time that it deserves in.